10 years ago, not long after my wife and I had tied the knot, our marriage hit a rough patch. We had been together for a few years before getting married, and like any couple in the early stages of marriage, we had our share of struggles. My wife was under a lot of stress from work, and the demands of her career had started to bleed into our personal lives. Our once exciting sex life had begun to fizzle out, and both of us were left feeling disconnected. In my case, I started questioning everything. I wondered if I had made a mistake by committing to marriage so soon. Those feelings of doubt, the weight of our problems, and the uncertainty I felt pushed me further away from my wife emotionally and physically. Instead of addressing the issues head-on with her, I looked for solace elsewhere, a mistake that would haunt me for years to come. At the time, I had been talking to someone online. What started as a harmless conversation with an online acquaintance quickly spiraled into something darker. We began chatting frequently, and it didn't take long before our discussions turned sexual. It felt like an escape, a way to avoid dealing with the problems at home. Every day we exchanged texts, flirted, and eventually began sexting. We even started using Skype while my wife was away working late shifts. It was exhilarating in a way, but deep down, I knew I was betraying the woman I had promised to love and be faithful to. Then one day, my worst fears came true. My wife noticed that Skype had been downloaded onto our shared laptop. She got curious, as anyone would, and decided to check it out. That's when she found the chat logs, evidence of my infidelity staring back at her from the screen. I wasn't home at the time, but when I returned, she confronted me. The look on her face was something I'll never forget, a mixture of anger, sadness, and betrayal. In the heat of the moment, I panicked. I grabbed the laptop from her and deleted everything. The messages, the logs, the photos, everything. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't want her to be hurt even more by seeing the intimate details of my online affair. The messages not only exposed the sexting, but also the doubts I had voiced about our marriage, the way I had talked about her behind her back, the things I had kept hidden. I admitted to the cheating. There was no denying it at that point, but I insisted it had only ever been online, which was true. There had never been a physical relationship, but the emotional and sexual betrayal was just as real. Somehow, despite the damage I had caused, we managed to move past it. It wasn't easy, and it took a long time for trust to be rebuilt. But my wife, showing a level of grace I didn't deserve, forgave me. I worked hard to prove that I was committed to our marriage, and we promised each other we would do better, that we would communicate more openly, and that we would fight for our relationship. Fast forward 10 years and life had gotten harder, though in a different way. We had kids now, and with them came new responsibilities and stress. The demands of work, family, and daily life left both my wife and me feeling stretched thin. Our marriage was still intact, but intimacy had once again become a point of tension. My wife had expressed on multiple occasions that she missed the closeness we once had. She wanted more effort from both of us to revive our sex life, and I agreed. I wanted the same thing, but between the pressures of work and parenting, I never seemed to find the time or energy to follow through on those promises. Over the last couple of years, I had noticed something changing in my wife. She was spending a lot more time on her phone, and her behavior seemed a little off. It was subtle, but enough to make me wonder if something was going on. I'm not proud of what I did next, but suspicion got the better of me. One evening, while she was out of the room, I picked up her phone and went through her messages. What I found winded me. She had been sexting with someone, a random guy she had met online. They had been exchanging explicit messages and photos. I felt my heart drop into my stomach as I scrolled through their conversations. It wasn't just the content that hurt, but the realization that my wife had been seeking comfort, intimacy, and excitement from someone other than me, just like I had done all those years ago. When she came back into the room, I confronted her immediately. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just told her what I had found. She looked at me, stunned, and then quickly grabbed her phone from my hands and deleted everything. She wiped out the messages, the photos, every trace of the affair, just like I had done 10 years ago. In that moment, I was taken back to the day she found out about my own betrayal. The parallels were too glaring to ignore. Just like me, she had sought something outside our marriage that she wasn't getting at home. And just like me, she deleted everything to spare me the pain of seeing all the details. When I asked her why, she admitted to the sexting, but insisted it had only been recent and purely online. She didn't even know the guy's name. It was a random fling, nothing more. She told me that she had been sexually frustrated, that she wanted more from our relationship, and that the lack of intimacy had driven her to seek it elsewhere. She said she still loved me and wanted to fix things between us. She didn't want this to be the end of our marriage, and neither did I. But now I find myself struggling. I know what she did was wrong, but it's impossible for me to ignore the fact that I had done the exact same thing a decade ago. She forgave me for it, and I want to believe that I can forgive her too. But the pain is fresh, and seeing her delete everything just like I had makes it hard for me to fully trust that she's being honest with me about the extent of what happened. We're now in a place where the future of our marriage feels uncertain. I don't want to throw away years of love, shared memories, and family over an online affair that, as far as I know, didn't cross into physical territory. But the betrayal still stings. I'm trying to reconcile the woman I know my wife to be with the person who could do this. I want to believe that it was just a moment of weakness, just as mine was, and that we can move on from this together. The biggest struggle for me is the deletion of the messages. I understand why she did it. She didn't want me to be hurt by the details. After all, I had done the same thing. But part of me wonders if there was more she was hiding, things I'll never know now that the evidence is gone. It feels like a shadow hanging over us, one that's hard to shake off. My wife says she doesn't want a divorce, and I don't want one either. I still love her, and I believe that she loves me too. But love alone isn't always enough to fix a broken marriage. We need to rebuild trust, rekindle the intimacy we've lost, and find a way to forgive each other for the mistakes we've made. It's not going to be easy, and there will be days when I wonder if we can truly get past this. I've realized that we both have a responsibility to make this marriage work. We both need to communicate more openly, to stop hiding our feelings and our frustrations. We need to make time for each other, even when life gets in the way. And most of all, we need to forgive, not just each other, but also ourselves, for the times we've failed to live up to the promises we made on our wedding day. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know that I'm not ready to give up on our marriage. We've been through too much together to let it end like this.